Blind to myself. We're going to do a side-by-side comparison of a Vanguard versus an Intek, a consumer grade versus an industrial grade engine. And I'm doing this for double wide, as well as all of you other wonderful subscribers that may benefit from this. Sorry, I've got an implant and I've got to turn it off so that I can function properly. Okay, now we're going to start off real easy. Carburetor, as you can see, cast aluminum intake runner, nice robust plenum, and a very simple bilaterally equal carburetor with dual jets, high and low jets. Okay, that's one. That's on the Vanguard. We'll come over here to the Intek. The Intek plastic runner with a gasket against the head, gasket here, gasket here, gasket here, and then you get a gasket here, a little bit of a plenum here, pulls in through the top, and these carburetors are by far way more complicated than the carburetors on the Vanguards. And you guys will have to excuse me, I may say Intek or Vanguard and get them flip-flopped. I apologize in advance for that if I happen to do that. You can also see how much dirt is accumulated around it. Just the entire design, the reason for these getting as dirty as they do starts right here. If you look at this screen, you can see the size of the openings in that screen. They're really large. And then you come down here and there's a big gap. Well, this comes off and then the blower housing comes off and you're left with a decent gap here in that respect. So there's a lot of areas, and this is just a big vacuum. When this engine is running, it's pulling air in here and blowing it down and across the engine. So you've got a lot of debris that can get past this much easier than this one with the teeny tiny little perforations in the screen. And when you set the shroud over top of this, another difference, plastic shroud versus a metal shroud, you put the shroud down over this, it rides way down on that screen. So very little can get in, a lot less can get in the way of debris and clog things up on the engine. Case in point, if you'll look, this is a cooling passage right here where I'm pointing, and it is clogged. And we come over here, same cooling passage, clogged. That's on the intake runner side, and of course the exhaust is just below it. Well, with that being clogged, and so easily clogged because of how narrow it is, that's one of the big problems these engines have, is in their cooling abilities. Now I will be taking one of the heads off to show Bob the difference between the heads. I shot a video yesterday before I finished assembly on the Vanguard, and it's ready to go. I just got to wrap up putting the sheet metal and whatnot on. But continuing on, let's take a look at the cooling passages on this engine. We have cooling passages here, we have cooling passages here, we have cooling passages here. There are cooling passages literally all over this head, and they are way far away from the fan. On this one, they are right next to the fan. So it has a really difficult time blowing that air down. The way this engine is designed, that air is pulled in here, it gets blown out around that shroud, forced out this way, and with these guards on, there's a guard here and a guard here, and the way these guards are formed, they give you, they make sure that you are cooling really, really well. You're making the best use of the air that's being pulled through to cool the engine. So there's a difference with the Vanguard and the Intek as far as cooling abilities goes, and keeping the engine itself free from debris and from clogs. And you guys will see on the video that I show of the head on these how they combated the issue that these have with overheating at the exhaust valve. These engines are much less prone to doing that with less maintenance. These engines require a lot more maintenance and upkeep to make sure that you are keeping your passages clear. Okay? So, and our head starts right here and comes up here. So we also have cooling passages that are actually going the wrong way on these engines, as well as a cooling passage being way out here. You can see where I'm pointing right here. That little hole right there. This one over here is completely plugged. You've got that cooling passage, and the way that this sheet metal is run, it is not as conforming as this sheet metal is. See how this has got a right angle on it? It's got it so that everything is getting directed exactly where that air needs to go, keeping everything cool. Thought and attention to detail to everything. Keeping your regulator rectifier cool with a little hole right here to allow it to blow down on your regulator rectifier to keep it from overheating. Opening here you have to have for the starter, but you lose a little bit of air there. Let's come over to the starter over here on this one. Pretty much the same, but look at the size of the opening in the gap here that goes right down, out and through. We have a slight curvature that comes down here, but look at all the breaches that you've got in that. You come over here, the holes are really small for the spark plug. It's really big for the spark plug on the Intek, small for the Vanguard. And then we get down here and look, and we've got a nice tight fit as far as how well this sheet metal conforms around to make sure that you're keeping your heads as cool as possible, and also free and clear of debris. Like I say, it's a difference between an industrial engine, industrial commercial, and your run-of-the-mill home brew engine. Okay, here's our regulator rectifier here. There's no cooling means, none, except for the big hole in the block. There's no cooling means for the regulator rectifier there. So, you know, the attention to detail on the Intek versus the Vanguard is just, it's up there. It's way up there. Then as far as the head configuration, the gear-driven oil pump versus the camshaft-driven oil pump, just a lot of differences. The size of the galley for the push rods on a Vanguard, or excuse me, did I say? On an Intek, see, I knew I was going to mix them up. The push rod galleys are way too big on the Intek, whereas the one on the Vanguard, you guys will see in the video, is nice and small. It's no larger than it needs to be for those push rods. And just my personal experience, my personal opinion is, if I had the choice between, say, a 20 horse Intek, excuse me, see, I switched it up again. If I had a choice between a 20 horse Vanguard and a 27 horse Intek, I would take the 20 horse Vanguard, just because of how much better they're built, how much more attention to detail went into building this engine so that it would be durable and reliable and have a good life expectancy. So homebrew, lots more maintenance, in my opinion, designed to fail, mainly because most of your homeowners are not going to be inept enough to know everything that you need to do to keep things clean. And I made that mistake myself on my Intek. I did not pull these tins off and clean and clear the passages on that. Did I say Intek again? I probably did. Vanguard. That's on my Poolin Pro. So that's just a quick run around and overlook of what I see comparing the two engines side by side, excuse me, as far as their as far as their durability, their design, their workmanship. This one was thrown together for the homeowner. This one was built right for your industrial user. Now, and then we get to the oil cooler. You've got an oil cooler here. There is no oil cooler on the Vanguards. Inteks. See, I told you guys at the beginning I was going to be getting them mixed up. No cooling oil cooler for the Inteks. Let's look at the blower housings. This blower housing is made and contoured to get as close to everything as it can possibly get. They even went so far as to perforate where that oil cooler is so that air will blow across that oil cooler and keep that oil cooler cooled down. We'll see if we can just set this down on there a little bit so you guys can get a general idea. Be careful about it. I can get it on there without. I wanted to show you there. Okay, that's sitting all the way down. See how close this gap is all the way around here? It's not exactly straight, but it's really hard for anything to get in there. You put the cover on this one, this has to come off, and then you're left with a big gap here, and you're pulling all kinds of debris down into the engine. So proof's in the pudding. The Vanguards are built a lot tougher to be more durable and more reliable than the Inteks. Now, they have addressed some of the issues with the Inteks with a new excuse me, a new version of the Intek, and they seem to have worked a lot of the problems out. I personally have not seen one, so until I do, I won't be able to compare the Vanguard to the new Inteks. But hopefully they remedied some of the issues with the heads overheating, with the passages getting clogged up, and with how much debris is able to get past what is essentially a giant vacuum when this thing is running at speed. So there you go, Mr. Double Wide, Bob. I hope that helps, as well as I will be pulling ahead and showing you what the Intek head looks like in comparison to the Vanguard head that I already did the looky-loo on. And I'm going to do that real quick. Then I'm buttoning up this Vanguard, and it's going to get bench run, then it's going in the tractor. So you guys stay tuned for that. We'll see you on the next one, and please smash that like button for me. It's your friendly neighborhood Zippo. Later. I'm out of here.